So let's play a little game of ranking fandoms.
Oh, this is going to be really divisive.
Hi and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your literary hype woman, and today's author conversation is one that just makes me smile so much. Sometimes there are authors that you see in events and you're like, I like them. They're pretty fun. Kendare Blake is one of those for me. I first saw her at BookCon 2018, my first year going to BookCon. May it rest and may it revive. Please bring back BookCon, please. We want it back. But anyway, Kendare was there and her sense of humor on this panel really drew me in, and so I started reading her books and we chatted a little bit on Twitter back in that time. So when I found out she was coming to St. Louis for the book festival, I had to try to schedule an interview with her, and I did. So we were talking about her most recent book, Champion of Fate, which is so dang good. This is probably the first book since Iron Flame that's really gotten my attention and made me want to sit down and read again. Which took a lot after Iron Flame. That one was really hard. But anyway, Champion of Fate and her Buffy trilogy. We talk a lot about Buffy, so if you love Buffy, you definitely want to tune in for this because it is such a fun conversation. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Kendare Blake.
Welcome to Literary Hype. It's so much fun to have you on the show. Been a big fan of you for a while now.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I'm glad our paths crossed in this serendipitous fashion.
In a hotel, just hanging.
Yeah.
You just did a school visit, and I saw on Instagram that they made a centerpiece for your most recent book release.
Yes. That was just one of many over-the-top touches that they did. They made centerpieces. There were at least 7 or 8 signs. There was an entire backdrop with statues of horses.
So they're very excited about you.
Oh my goodness. I don't know how much time went into this prep, but they did a great job.
And that book, which features horses, is Champion of Fate. It's such a pretty cover. You had a really cool trailer for this. What was it like for you to see the trailer for this book for the first time?
Oh, I didn't even know, because they said they were doing a trailer for it. And I'm like, okay, great. They didn't really tell me, then they told me the concept. I'm like, this is going to be sweet, because the whole concept of the trailer is they were going to animate the Hall of the Aristine, which is something that I'd conceived of in the book. It's basically just this beautiful hall filled with stone statues of these warrior women. And in my brain, it looked super cool. So I was very excited to see it come to life. I'm like, yeah, it's just as cool. It's just as cool as I imagined.
What's it like for you when you're writing? What do you see in your mind when you're writing these things?
It's basically it's not always like a movie, but it usually is. My imagination is pretty cinematic. And I can't ever hear voices. I think that's maybe a good thing that I can't hear voices. But I can, in a way, I can almost hear voices because I can sense their inflection and I can sense their tone and I can sense characters' movements, the way that they move. So it's particularly handy in crafting fight scenes because I can kind of see it playing out and my mental brain knows where I should focus the words on. Does that make sense? That sounds really strange.
As someone who does some writing, it does make sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for anybody who hasn't seen Champion of Fate pop up on their social media feed or heard about it yet, what is this book about?
So Champion of Fate is the story of a young orphaned girl who is discovered by an order of immortal female warriors. And these warriors are tasked with the duty of creating heroes. So they find mortals with the potential of doing great things, and then they just kind of coach them into doing it. So they are the hero makers. Our main character, Reed, has been raised by them for her entire life since her entire family was slaughtered in their settlement. And now, when the book begins, she is in her final phase of becoming a full member, which is all she has ever wanted.
And so this group, the Aristine, they kind of gave me Amazon vibes, Wonder Woman. Is that what you were going for?
It was. When I was drafting the book, I called it Amazon Jedis. Whenever I was talking about the book before it had a real title, it actually didn't have a real title through the entire editorial process. And then one day my editor was like, So it's going to need a real title. It can't be Amazon Jedis. But I call it Amazon Jedis because it was the Wonder Woman Amazons. And like, if you smashed it together with like the Jedi Order, I love that master and apprentice vibe that Obi-Wan and Anakin had. So I definitely wanted to get that kind of relationship into this book. I knew the basic concept. We have a goddess of glory who feeds on the glory that the Aristine win for her. And in return, she has gifted them with a sacred city that is safe and outside the world of men. And she gives them these powerful gifts, this powerful magic to use. They're extremely strong warriors. They're extremely hard to kill. They're basically immortal unless they do get killed in battle. And she gives them like fancy immortal horses. So you have this goddess, and if you have this goddess and this is how you're in service to her, well, what might that little society look like? So they kind of just go back and forth, and I'm consistently learning more about them the more I write. Even writing Fenburn Island, all the way up to the last book, that's 4 books deep, plus 2 novellas, I was still discovering new things about the island, which I don't think is unrealistic at all because, we've lived on this planet for quite some time, and we're always learning new things about it. It's the same with fiction.
And so our main character, Reed, she's kind of adopted into this group, and you were adopted. What was that like for you, kind of crafting a character who was kind of having a new family from someone who kind of grew up in a different family?
I never think of it. It's not a conscious... I'm not consciously trying to write about adopted characters or characters with a lot of found family, but I suppose that I find myself doing that pretty much always because, I guess that's what I relate to and that's what I understand. I don't have any family by blood, so I don't even get that. I don't even understand what the blood bond is. So in Three Dark Crowns, I have girls going to foster families, and now in Champion of Fate, I have an orphan girl essentially raised by 2 warrior moms. And yeah, I love it.
How do you, because you also write a lot of horror and this is more fantasy, how do you approach writing a fantasy story different than when you write something that's horror?
Well, the main difference is going to be the concept, right? So you go into a horror concept and you kind of know the point is to make people uneasy. And the point is to scare them if you can. And if you can't, you just want to disturb them. So with a fantasy, the goals are different. You want to bring people along on an exciting journey that maybe they would someday want to take part in. But I inevitably find that no matter what I'm writing, if I'm writing horror, it has elements of the fantastic. And if I'm writing fantasy, it has elements of the horrifying. There's a character in this book who carries around a severed head for funsies. And I'm pretty sure that comes because of my horror side. I just can't quite leave it behind.
And the eyeball gathering.
The eyeball gathering?
The guy that carries around.
Oh, well, I thought that was just sweet. There's a character in whose culture, they believe the soul resides in the eyes. So when they die, their loved ones collect their eyeballs and put them in these really beautifully painted funerary jars. You thought that was I thought that was just so nice.
Maybe it's just if you ever read what was it, Into the Void or something like that, where they eat eyeballs, and so now eyeballs have become I don't trust this now.
I remember a book I read when I was in grade school, Dog Song. Does that sound familiar? I think it's by the same. It's either by the same. It's by Gary Paulson or maybe by the same person that wrote Julie of the Wolves. But they eat seal eyeballs,
Interesting.
I think they might eat them raw, and it's very lovingly described. But ever since then, I'm like, eyeballs. I wonder what that's like.
I can't do it. Ever since I read that one,
No, I don't think so. I'm a pretty.
It's a duology. It is,
and they like it. They say it's good.
They ate the eyeballs, and that's how they got power.
I'm a pretty adventurous eater. Maybe if they were fried.
Yeah, you get some powers from the eyeballs.
Well, if they came with powers, for sure. But even if someone just told me that, no, they're really good. Put it in aioli. I'm probably down.
Fried with aioli? Yeah. Probably delicious. Just don't think about it.
Just don't, oh God, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see one day.
There's also a really fun little nod to Three Dark Crowns in this book.
Yes.
How did that come about to connect your universes?
Well, I always wanted them to be in the same universe. They're completely unrelated stories, but I wanted them to be in the same universe. So my plan was always to have a famous former queen from Fenburn Island make a cameo appearance in Champion of Fate as one of the immortal warriors. But unfortunately, when she showed up, she just decided she was going to be in the whole book instead of just a cameo. So now Three Dark Crowns and Champion of Fate are much more closely entwined, and actually Fenburn comes to play a major part in the finale of the second book. So it's become a lot more than I originally intended, and that often happens. Your characters kind of do what they want.
That's what everyone keeps telling me.
Yeah.
It's like, don't blame me, blame the characters.
Exactly. It's nice to have them to just absolve ourselves of any like pain we cause, with character deaths. I'm like, well, they ran in there. I didn't make them do it.
Kirikaze is like, I didn't do it. They told me what to do, and
Yeah, they just, I kept trying to kill Mirabella in Three Dark Crowns. Like, I was trying to kill her from book 2, like solidly trying to kill her, and she just kept surviving, just kept weaseling out of it. So
I love it. And you have a really sassy horse in this book.
yes.
Silver in Combat, aka Silco.
He's
a great name.
He's my favorite. I love Silco a lot as a character.
And he's kind of in honor of a real life horse that you mentioned in your dedication. How much of that horse's in real life's personality did you funnel into Silco?
Quite a bit, actually. Lassie was my horse, and she was my horse growing up. She just passed away in 2020. She lived to a very ripe old age. And she was extremely mean. She bit everybody she saw. And when she was done being ridden, she would reach around and grab my foot in her teeth and just rip me right out of the saddle. And I was like, so we're finished. Okay.
That's one way to say it.
Yes. But I loved her anyway. I mean, I love a prickly lady.
I loved it so much. And you mentioned Champion of Fate too. What can you tell us about that book and where it is in the process at this point?
Oh, well, I can just blab to the skies. It has not been edited. We should probably start doing that soon. I've seen the cover sketch. It's very pretty. It has a title. It's not Champion of Fate 2, Champion of Fatier, like I keep calling it. It'll have
Two fates, two furies.
Yeah, like two fates, two fatiest. I just basically like Champion of Fate 2, Champions Reloaded. I just want to, but no, they're making me do an actual title. It will be another adventure of Reed's with a brand new hero. And but the old heroes will still play a part in it. So you haven't seen the last of Hestian or Alsander. Leonine is also in there, and I think she gets a POV. She gets a POV in the next book. See more of our favorite Aristine, some more of the Elders, more of Aster and Viridian, and definitely more of Ethiel because she demanded it.
Here for it.
Yeah, I love the unhinged warrior woman. She's just the most fun to write. Every time she shows up, I know something's going to get smashed. Just for no reason, occasionally. So,
other than it's fun.
Right? Yeah, she just shows up. She's just like, smash. Hi. She's great. Yeah.
You also have a book coming out, which will be the third and final book in the Buffy trilogy. How did you get into writing for Buffy?
I was so excited to be able to write for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I was a fan since I was like a child, like in my formative years. And I think that's why I felt like I could do it, because I've been obsessed with Buffy for that long. And because Buffy kind of built my sense of humor. So when it came time to write Buffy jokes, I'm like, well, I've been writing Buffy jokes my entire life. Disney approached me. I don't remember the year now. They all blend together, but it was during the first year of the pandemic. And they asked me if I wanted to write it. And then they showed me the concept. And the concept was the next Slayer is Willow's daughter. The Slayers have been attacked, and they're all presumed dead, so she's all we've got. And they gave me like characters to put around her, and then like the Darkness. This is the rogue faction of Slayers that went bad. And if they had asked me in advance, like, what of the original characters, which original characters would you most like to work with? It was exactly the characters that were in this pitch. So I couldn't say no. I was never going to say no. But I couldn't say no because there was Willow, there was Oz, there was Spike. And if I can only have 3 and I can't have Buffy, that was the rule, you can't have Buffy, then I want them. And it's been so much fun just throwing them around New Sunnydale and creating this new group of Scoobies while hanging out with like some originals. And in the 3rd book, I don't hold anything back. Anybody that I've wanted to bring back this whole time, I just bring them back. Because screw it, it's the last book.
What are they going to do, fire you?
Right? I mean, I guess they could have said, no, they can't be in this. But they didn't. They just let me bring everybody back that I wanted to.
What was the process like in working with them and going back and forth on what you can use and what you can't use, and how to craft the story to stay within kind of someone else's sandbox?
It was actually surprisingly easy. I was worried about that because I'd heard from a lot of friends who worked in Star Wars, especially, and Marvel. These are ongoing properties with movies in the mix, with series, like live action series in the mix. And Star Wars so much has been written within the canon that, like, you can identify like a sliver of time where you can use this character, and otherwise, like, he's on Alderaan. Sorry, no, not Alderaan. Like that one, obviously not. But with Buffy, we didn't really have to worry about it because they had decided that it was going to only follow the continuity of the TV shows. So Buffy and Angel. They let me write in kind of a patch to get over that devastating Angel finale. So now we have a patch in which, instead of what happened at the Angel finale and what we all assume happened afterwards, Buffy and the Slayers arrived to help save the day, and then thus Spike was spared, which is why he's still alive to be our new Watcher for Frankie. But we didn't have that much pushback because Disney did a lot of Buffy spin-offs, but most of them were prequels. I didn't have to worry about any of that. I was kind of the only one that was moving forward in this particular timeline. So as long as I stuck with the Buffy and the Slayers are dead scenario, which I did keep trying to say, like, but Buffy's not really dead, right? But Buffy's not really dead, right? And like they would not confirm it. Until like the 2nd book, they would not confirm whether or not she was really dead. I'm like, but you can't really kill her, right?
That's just rude.
You can't kill her. But she's not dead. So yay.
What's it mean to you as a fan of this property to get to be in that universe, and why does it still stand the test of time? Like, Audible just put out a series with Buffy as well.
Yes, with the original cast members voicing their original. Oh, we are we are awash with new Buffy stuff, and as a fan, that's an extremely exciting time. I don't know why Buffy has stood the test of time, but I've rewatched it numerous times, and it still holds up. The chemistry of the cast is still there. Some of it's it is a product of its time, so some of the themes that it explores feel harsher now than it did then because we have had far more school shootings than when Buffy first aired her episode on school shootings, Earshot. It had to be delayed out until after the finale because Columbine had just happened. And Columbine was the first. Well, now we've had, 5 million? So now when we rewatch Earshot, it hits in a whole different way. And the same things with a lot of the concepts that Buffy explored in season 6. They still resonate, but they're even harder to watch because we've come a long way in how we think about toxic men and bad relationships and a lot of misogyny that was dealt with really very deftly by the writers in season 6. But looking on it now, it's like, oh my God. Back then, that's just the way that things were. And now we have so much more, violence perpetrated against women. Do you remember? Of course you remember. Do you remember the episode where Buffy gets shot? It's at the end of season 6, and a semi-harmless villain that she's been pursuing the entire season, Warren, who up until now had been just kind of like a cackling, ridiculous played for comic relief with Andrew and Jonathan, who I love as characters. He picks up a gun and he shoots her because she was a woman and she had the audacity to beat him. And I was just remembering that this was before. Do you remember the shooting that took place? It's years ago now, but it was basically a young man who he felt like he needed to date more 10s, but they wouldn't date him. He could only land like 5s and 6s. So he got a gun one day and he went out and he just shot every 10 that he saw. And I'm like, okay, so this hits different now that things like this are like have happened for real. Like it makes the episodes, you view them with a different lens and more perspective. But I think Buffy persists because it was so far ahead of its time. Like, it telegraphed some stuff for us. It was coming down the pipe and we didn't see it. But at its heart, what Buffy is pure enjoyment, pure cast chemistry, pure wit. I mean, pure love. Like, Buffy is the hero to end all heroes. She's heroic at her best moments. She's heroic at her worst. I absolutely love her as a character. I think Sarah Michelle Gellar did such an amazing job portraying her. And I really think it's that lightning in a bottle, and that's why it persists, because it's still quality 25 years later. That was a really long answer. You can tell I'm really into this show.
I mean, you're very nerdy, and I love that about you. Like, your pet names are nerd-inspired. So let's play a little game, because you've got Scully, and you've got Tyrion, and you've got, what's the other one? Obi.
Yes, I have Agent Scully from The X-Files. I have Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. I had Obi-Dog Kenobi, who passed away. And then I have Armpit McGee, who's from nothing. That's just something my husband made up because he's a naked Sphinx cat with no hair, and my husband thought he might feel like an armpit.
That's hilarious.
Like a sweaty little armpit, which he does every now and again. He gets quite sweaty. It's warm. Yeah, when you're 100 degrees body temperature normally and you just live your life under a blanket, that's going to happen.
Yeah. So let's play a little game of ranking fandoms.
Oh.
So we got Game of Thrones represented. We got Star Wars, Buffy, X-Files. Rank them.
I think Buffy's number one. Buffy, 100%. Also, I really like the Buffy fandom. We're a friendly bunch. Like, we have a lot of fun discussions. Game of Thrones. Second, I really love Game of Thrones, the books and the show. Then I've got to go, this is going to be really divisive, but I've got to go with the X-Files after that. Yeah. Mulder and Scully. Yeah.
So you put Star Wars at 4.
And the reason I'm putting Star Wars in 4th is because I'm actually a really bad Star Wars fan. There are way too many levels of Star Wars fan. There are like people who, like one of the movies. There are people who've maybe seen a cartoon show. There are people like me who've seen all of the movies and really like them all. And then there are people who can build an X-Wing in their garage. So the distance between me and them,
it's massive.
That's why I have to go, for me, I don't deserve to rank it any higher. I'm not that much of a fan. I don't have the cred.
I mean, understandable. Like, if you have to know something about it to really claim it. Especially, if you dabble into the Marvel DC universe. Oh. Because then it gets a little out of control sometimes.
My Disney editor did ask, she's like, do you have any interest in maybe writing for Star Wars? I mean, one day maybe I could put you in touch with somebody. And I was like, no, they'll eat me alive. I don't have it. I can't do it. It would be awesome, but I can't 100% no.
At least you know your levels in there. And you aren't because so a fan would be like, oh, I want to, of course.
Of course, you want to, but I 100% know I wouldn't be able to do it justice. There's really only 3 properties that I could feel like I could play in somebody else's sandbox. And one is Buffy. And the other 2, one is Sailor Moon, because I'm never going to do anything in there either. And then the third one I actually can't say.
Oh, is that a hint?
Because maybe.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we got a scoop. There's a massive fandom that we might see Kendare Blake in.
Maybe. Yeah. It's I've got my fingers crossed. Because if it ends up being a yes, I pretty much got my childhood just marked right off.
Oh, that would be so cool, though, to get to write in your favorite universes.
Yeah, I never thought I would be able to write in Buffy. So being able to they just turned me loose in Sunnydale. And I went hog wild. I'm not going to lie. I annotate copies of the books with all of the Easter eggs that I put in from the show. And I basically can't even skip a single page because I wedge some kind of reference on to almost every single page. It's ridiculous.
It's amazing, though.
Just when you think I can't fit another one, I do.
Do you keep rewatching the show to help you find the...
I don't even need to. That's the sad thing. I don't even need to. I put in Easter eggs that I didn't even know were Easter eggs. I had Spike say at some point in the first book when they're trying to run away at a train station, he's like, "This is not the journey of Natty Gann." And they're like, "The journey of what?" Because, you know, that's an old movie and they're teenagers. But the lead actress in The Journey of Natty Gann actually starred in the episode I Only Have Eyes for You, which I didn't realize until we got to that point in my rewatch. And I'm like, oh my God, is that Natty Gann? So it's
You're a
just
genius.
it's just stuck in my subconscious, just wedged in there so deep. And it just comes out, you know, when I need it.
I think that just makes you a genius.
I think that's means Buffy takes up way too much space in my, you know, cognition.
There are worse things.
There's like no room for anything else. I know Buffy and then nothing else of use.
Well, you do know some stuff, and that is making some fun cocktails to go along with books and posting them on your social media. I've seen a lot of people asking for more. Are you going to continue doing this?
Yeah, I love pretty cocktails. I'm an absolute sucker for a pretty cocktail. And I thought, well, I'm coming across so many of these pretty cocktails and they're so just photograph worthy. And I'm always looking for ways to feature books. So what fun. I can just find books to pair with these cocktails. So yep, I have a few more posts planned. I've got like a backlog of cocktails. I just need to match the books to them now.
Oh, darn. You have to make more cocktails.
Yeah, I just recently made my first one on video. Usually I just order them from very talented bartenders and then photograph them. But I made one of my own for Trisha Levenseler's relaunch of the Vengeance of the Pirate, the Siren Queen, I think.
And they all have very pretty edges, great colors, and they just blend together.
They have those fancy ribbon bookmarks that I love. Oh, yeah. They're very pretty editions.
Very pretty books.
So I had to come up with, like a bright green cocktail. So I used Midori, the melon liqueur, because I'm like, well, there it is. That's bright green. I'd never tasted it before.
It's good.
It's quite shocking. It's quite tart. I'm not going to lie.
So we need to include taste tests with the drinks and just see how good of a poker face you can keep on the bad ones.
Yeah, before, because I don't know about my poker face. I did a reaction shot and I sipped from it. I'm like, that was good.
Try this. Trust me. And you posted on your blog recently that you have a new agent. For those who are trying to break into the writing space and getting an agent, what's it like for you, even as a established writer, to try to go through that process all over again? And like, what's your best advice for finding an agent?
Well, these are going to be two different pieces of advice because luckily for me, I didn't have to go through the process again. One of the senior agents at my agency wanted to take me on. So we just had a phone call and I said, yeah, let's stay together because she's really great. It's Emily Van Beek at Folio Literary. And my agent, my beloved agent, my wonder of an agent, Adrienne Rantizer Helen, just left the business after 12 years. So I was kind of shell-shocked and bereft. So luckily, though, Emily was there. But I originally got Adrienne, like most of us do, just through the slush pile. So querying. I concocted a query for my first novel, Anna Dressed in Blood, and I sent it out with very high hopes. And Adrienne was interested. So my advice to people who are just setting out in the query trenches, don't be intimidated. Don't feel like you have to know somebody because you don't. So many of us are discovered from the slush pile. The slush pile is our friend. Polish that query like you wouldn't believe. And when you think you have it snappy enough, get it snappier, because it is the hardest thing in the world to work on a novel of probably 70 to 100,000 words and then try to distill it down to basically one paragraph. You've got to pare it down to its essential points. So when you're trying to learn to do that, my advice is to go read the flap copy of your favorite books, or books that are similar to the one that you just wrote. Read that flap copy, like that two paragraphs, because that's what you want to get. Those are the beats that you want to hit in your query letter. And that's all the time that you have. The biggest flag that I see in first query letters is that they're all too long, because it's so hard. Like, in our writer's mind, like, no, this is important, and this is important, and this is important. And it is to the novel. It's not important to the query. You really have to, that little baby has to be slender. I mean, it has to just be protagonist, conflict, worlds. I mean, that's essentially all the time you have. And then you're just like, thank you. I hope to hear from you soon. I could, go on and on about, like different tips for queries, like creating a spreadsheet to track the agents that you submit to. That's very important.
The last question we always ask, because this is literary hype, what books are you hyped about?
I'm very excited for people to read, and I've already read it, so this isn't fair. I'm very excited for people to read A Drop of Venom, which is from Rick Riordan Presents by Sajni Patel. Full disclosure, she is my friend. But the book is excellent. It is a Medusa retelling, but Indian mythology inspired. So it's like Indian Medusa, full on retribution. I'm talking like there's some vengeance in this book, and it's great. There's also like a giant snake friend. She's my favorite. I love the animal companions. So you give me a giant snake friend, and we're just gonna go for book and book. There's another one coming out that I really loved. Sacrificial Animals by Kaylee Peterson. It's adult, it's short, it's very disturbing. It's about a young man who's going back home to the house where he has been like kind of led an abusive childhood, and it's like it flashes back and flashes forward to present, and it's just extremely well told, and it's very menacing. So if you're in the mood for some familial menace in the middle of like nowhere Midwest, it's very good. And the other one that I'm very excited about, which I haven't read, so this is more fair, is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid. Super excited to see how she reclaims the Lady Macbeth story. I think that one is coming out next fall, and I should have a manuscript like in my mailbox when I get home.
Well, thank you so much for taking time to talk to me about your book and other books and all the shenanigans.
Thank you so much for letting me just go off the rails about Buffy and stuff. Give me any excuse and I will do it. So,
I mean, when I interviewed Julie Soto, she told me she could, if you give her a number for season and a number for episode, she can name it. So I made her do it, and she did it.
Okay, I can't do that. You can probably, if you tell me like a joke, I can probably tell you what episode it's from. But I can't, I don't have them down to the numbers. That's impressive.
Literary Hype is a place to be a nerd. This is what we're here for.
That is impressive. Now I have a new goal. I have to go memorize them by season and number.
Thanks again to Kendare for taking time from her very busy St. Louis Teen Book Festival weekend to sit down with me and talk about her books. She's just one that every time I see her, I like her more and more. She is hilarious and so kind and just so much fun. I love her so much. So definitely you want to get your hands on a copy of Champion of Fate. Link to do that is down in the description below, as well as her Buffy books and the Three Dark Crown series, because now they tie in. So you need all three. Well, there's a lot more than 3 books in that series. So you need all of them. You just need all of them. Get the books. They're down below. And while you're that side of the video, don't forget to click on that like button. It really helps things out. So do that. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss anything, because you know you don't want to miss these shenanigans. So click on that little bell. Do it. You need to right now. Do it. But thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time.